The Royal Manchester Children's Hospital is one of the biggest and busiest hospitals of its kind in the country.
Can you feel that squeezing?
Yeah.
Coming up, 6-year-old Matthew faces an operation that could change the way he speaks forever.
You wanted to go to school.
Wanting to know a new.
It will be a massive thing for him, you know, to be able to speak proper.
And Professor Simon Carley's all ears in A&E.
I wish people wouldn't put things down their ears.
With 4-year-old Nadim and 5-year-old Maisie. The hospital's cleft lip and palate unit is one of the largest of its kind in the country. Staff here treat around 80 children born with the condition every year. And they've looked after 6-year-old Matthew Curley for all of his life.
Matthew's always laughing, always happy. He's never ever sad. He's a proper live wire. Everybody adores him.
Matthew was born with a cleft lip and palate, which means that both his lip and the roof of his mouth didn't fuse together properly in the womb.
When he was first born, if you looked inside his mouth, there was nothing in between from the middle to like where your teeth are. He couldn't suck because he couldn't have a normal baby's bottle. So we fed him like on a little spatula, like a kitten, and he'd like lap it off.
Should we have a look?
Matthew's had 6 operations so far to correct his lip and close the gap in the roof of his mouth. But he's still having major problems with his speech.
There was a young mouse
There was a young man.
that lived in a house
What went in the house?
who wanted to go to school.
What wanting to know a new.
I think Matthew finds it dead irritating sometimes when he's talking to one of his best friends. He goes, "You are," and then he can see him getting louder and louder, and then he'll go, "Oh," and walk off, and that's what he does.
The zebra lives at the zoo.
The never went at the noon.
The shoe
Speech therapist Melanie Bowden has been working with Matthew for the last few months.
We'd like him to be less nasally, and we'd also like his consonants to be clearer. So a lot of the English sounds he substitutes with the nasal consonant N, which makes him difficult to understand.
The shoe shop was shut.
The knew not what not.
Although Matthew's making progress, he may need further surgery to correct his speech problems. David Whitby has spent the last 18 years operating on children with similar problems and has performed many of Matthew's operations in the past.
His palate has been more difficult to repair than many of the patients who we treat. The hard palate and the soft palate meet about here, and Matthew's got a hole at that junction. So he's still getting some air coming up into his nose when he's speaking through that hole, but he's also getting a little air coming around the back of his soft palate. So he's got a problem with too much air coming down his nose during speech. Right, can I bring you up to my size?
Today, Matthew's having an endoscopy. The tiny camera being fed up his nose will assess how much air is escaping at the back of his palate.
A few more seconds.
He's being so brave.
We're in.
The results will determine if he needs yet another operation.
Say, Bobby's a baby.
I'm in a baby.
This is his palate moving up and down here,
Right.
and you can see that you're getting a bubble coming through there. Yeah, coming out. Well done. Fantastic.
Wowza! You did it!
With a significant amount of air escaping, Mr. Whitby decides that an operation is the best way forward.
2 things. One, we've still got that little hole,
Yeah.
which I'd like to try and get repaired. And the other way we can try and help with his speech is to make that gap between the back of the palate and the back of the throat a little bit smaller. So I think it's worth trying to get that sorted out for him.
I'm trying to close it at the back.
It'll mean the world to us if this operation works. I know it'll make such a huge difference. I know it'll make him fit in and sound just like everybody else.
Matthew will be back at the hospital in a few weeks' time for an operation that could totally transform the way he speaks. Downstairs in the hospital's accident and emergency department, 5-year-old Maisie's got the back of an earring embedded in her earlobe.
It's got a little smiley face on it, but the smiley face is upside down, so I don't think it's a smiley face.
No, it's just the back.
Maisie, is it OK if I just have a look? I'm not going to poke anything, I promise. I'm just going to lift your ear forwards a little bit just so I can see where it is.
Professor Simon Carley needs to remove the earring before it becomes infected, but it's going to hurt. Luckily, he's got a great pain relief option up his sleeve.
So I've got some special gas which I can give you, which gives you the giggles. And Mummy's had this, haven't you?
I've had this, yes.
And what did it make you do?
Giggle.
Giggle?
Makes me giggle.
Lots of giggles. And giggles are always
Doesn't hurt
good.
when you have it. You're going to be brave. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, I've got this little funny mask here. Do you want to have a little sniff of that? Can you hold it for me? No. Can Mummy hold it for me?
No. Hey.
Not so sure. She's not in pain now, so this is fear. And fear doesn't respond to painkillers. It responds to hugs and kisses and bubbles and mums and play therapists.
Enter play leader Sarah Neild.
Hello there, darling. Hey. That's like your bedroom.
It's her job to help children in A&E get through their treatment.
What do you play? What do you like playing with? Do you? Like makeup, don't you? Do you? Hey. Do you borrow Mummy's? Yeah. Hey. Yeah.
Now that Maisie's nicely distracted, it's time to get that earring out.
Can I just have a look at your ear as well and just see if it's sore at all? I'll just have a look.
Who's in the shower?
He's going to be under this one.
You ready? He is there, isn't he? Good
All
girl.
right, darling.
You got the ball. There you go.
There we go. Good girl.
All
Well
done.
done, The whole of that disc there, Mum, was on the inside. I probably don't need to do much more than just give it a really good clean and let it settle.
Right, okay.
Obviously, no earrings back in.
No. No earrings for a while, eh?
Yeah. My girls are allowed to have earrings after they start dating.
How old's that?
About 32.
You've been brave, haven't you? Yeah? It hurt though, did it? A little bit. Yeah, but you're brave. Big girl.
Happily, Maisie's troubles are over.
Good girl.
Six-year-old Matthew Curley is settling in nicely on Ward 77. Matthew's had numerous operations since he was born to repair his cleft lip and palate, a gap in both his lip and the roof of his mouth.
You feel that squeezing?
Today, he faces his 7th operation, which will hopefully improve his speech.
I'm going to talk properly.
People are cruel if you are slightly different, and I don't want him to grow up worrying about why he doesn't fit in.
Everybody always asks, what your name, what your name, what your name.
It will be a massive thing for him, you know, to be able to speak proper. And that's what we're hoping for.
What have you got under there? A bit of cream?
Matthew will be operated on today by leading plastic surgeon David Whitby. He's going to try and repair a hole in the roof of Matthew's mouth and close a gap at the back of his throat. Both are leaking air and affecting his speech, but it's not going to be straightforward.
In Matthew's case, his palate has been more of a problem than many of the patients we see. The width of the palate was really quite small. There was very little there to repair. But I think Matthew's speech is affected to a degree that we want to try and close it for him. So it's worth trying to carry out further surgery.
Are you excited or are you scared?
I'm a midnight.
Are you a bit scared?
But as the operation draws nearer, Matthew copes with it in his own special way.
Y and me. Pay.
We're going now, Matthew.
And despite being here before, it doesn't get any easier for his mum and dad.
You don't want to keep putting them through operation after operation. You know, you want it to be over and fixed and done with.
Little Matthew to see you. Hello, Matthew.
The surgeons always say, you know, we'll take good care of him, Mum.
All right, thank you.
You're just like praying, just thinking, please let everything be okay and hurry up and bring him back to me, because you've got to trust them now.
Matthew will be reunited with his parents in a few hours' time. If the operation is a success, it could improve the way he speaks forever. Staff here at the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital, A&E, see children who've done some kind of damage to their ear most days of the week.
We got Nadim Ahmed.
Today, 4-year-old Nadim's just arrived with his mum, dad, and something stuck in his ear.
I've got something in your ear. That's what I've been told. Is that true? No. No?
It's Professor Simon Carley's second ear injury this week.
Can I have a look in the normal one first?
Yeah. With no time to waste, he tries to shed some light on the situation.
Any light coming out the other side, Mum?
Nope.
I'm only joking. Oh, right, OK. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm surprised, because there's a big green thing in your ear. OK. Shall I go and get my bits and pieces, then?
Yeah.
Definitely a ball, by the looks of things. It almost completely fills the canal, the ear canal. It's difficult to get beyond it. It's round, so the tweezers that we have that push it just don't want to get hold of it. It's plastic, so nothing really sticks to it or grips to it. They're just about the worst things you can chuck down an ear. I've got to say, when you look in, apart from seeing something like a spider in somebody's ear, it's probably the worst thing I can look at, because it could be a real pain to get out.
Thankfully for Nadim, Professor Carley's got a plan.
We've got a little plastic cannula there that can go beyond, and hopefully by pushing the water to the other side, it'll just help it come backwards, and then we can maybe catch it and get it out. I wish people wouldn't put things down their ears. It drives you mad. There we go.
Does it come out?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
It is.
Right. Don't think that's shifting. Try that one more time and then we'll go to plan B.
After 3 failed attempts with water, Professor Carley tries another approach.
Right, so let's try plan B. There's a little sucker that we can see if we can just suck it out of your ear.
I'll put it in my ear.
Well, if they don't get it out, Mummy, then your ear's going to hurt.
5, 6.
The suctions also failed, so 2 plans down, it's time to improvise.
Fancy. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try with the needle, bend the end of the needle so it's got a little hook on it, and see if we can just hook it out. Yeah, I think we might be on plan Z soon, but let's...
Nadim's getting restless, but the ball needs to come out as his ear could become infected.
Let's just count again. Last time now, promise. All right, count to 20. Right, count to 20 last time now. Sing the song. And then
Finally, Professor Carley makes some progress.
Oh, it's out.
Is it?
Just
Keep
stay
still
there.
now, because we've got it. We've got it now, and we'll show it to you. Do you want to have a look at it?
Don't move,
Sorry, it's okay, it's okay.
Don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. It's come back in now.
It's a disaster, and Nadim's not willing to sit still any longer.
I've got a 4-year-old who's managed to put a bearing down his right ear.
Any more poking around in Nadim's ear could cause him damage. So, after admitting a rare defeat, Professor Carley makes an appointment for him to see an ear, nose and throat specialist in the morning.
We take a lot of things out of kids' ears, a lot of things, and we quite like doing it, actually. It's a really good fun thing to do. But you've got to realise that sometimes you run the risk of causing damage if the child is not particularly cooperative. But it's a bit disappointing not to get it out. Do you want to come through to the front desk and we'll sort that for you?
Nadim's in no danger tonight, but fingers crossed ENT doctors will be able to get the ball out in the morning. Six-year-old Matthew Carley is in theatre. He was born with a cleft lip and palate, a condition where his lip and the roof of his mouth never formed properly in the womb. He's had numerous operations to repair it, but still has air leaking through his palate, which is badly affecting his speech. His parents are desperate for the operation to improve it.
It'll help a lot at school because now he's at the stage where he's learning to read and they're doing the sounds, and there's some sounds that he can't actually physically do.
Operating on Matthew today is plastic surgeon David Whitby. He knows just how life-changing this operation could be.
His speech is affected to a degree where I think life could be much more difficult than it needs to be for him, particularly as he gets older. A number of patients over the years who've had a cleft palate repaired until their speech is good, other people think they're stupid because of the way they speak, and that's not the case at all.
Mr. Whitby needs to try and reduce the amount of air escaping into Matthew's nose when he speaks. This will involve closing a gap at the back of his throat and a hole in the roof of his mouth. But as previous surgery to close the hole has failed, it's going to be a real challenge.
I wouldn't be doing it unless I felt we could make it work, but I wouldn't say to anybody, I guarantee that this will work. It's not that sort of surgery. But if we don't do anything, his speech isn't going to get any better by itself.
Mr. Whitby begins by making careful incisions in the lining of Matthew's throat. He'll then stitch it together, creating a bulge. This should reduce the gap at the back of his throat, so when he speaks, it will close and become completely airtight.
So this is muscle and lining goes down the side of the throat, and what we're going to do is to move it to produce more of a bulge for the palate to reach and make contact with.
It's an hour into the operation and they've managed to close the gap. Now for the most challenging part of the surgery, filling the hole in the roof of Matthew's mouth.
Closing a hole that size shouldn't normally be a difficult problem at all, but it's a bit more difficult when it's the hard palate. It's not very elastic tissue. What we've done is to lift a layer of tissue up next to it, which we're going to just move across.
The hole is finally repaired and the surgery is complete.
Thank you very much. As good as we could hope, I think. And we'll have to wait and see how it all heals. It's closed at the moment, but it's how it heals over the next 10, 14 days.
Matthew. After 3 hours in theatre, Matthew is finally reunited with his mum.
Such a relief. Fingers crossed it works.
You all right, Baba?
Matthew and his parents will now have to wait several weeks before they know if the surgery has improved his speech and transformed his life. Four-year-old Nadim has a small plastic ball stuck in his ear. But last night he was in no mood to cooperate with A&E staff as they tried to remove it. Today, it's ENT registrar Michael Dyke's turn.
Nadim, I think I can maybe get this out for you, but I need to use a little instrument just to pop behind the little ball and pull it out.
Okay.
The question is, will Nadim play ball?
Keep really still for me.
Yes.
All right, I promise that it's not going to hurt, okay?
No.
But I need you to keep still for me.
Okay.
Is that all right? Is that a deal?
Deal.
Okay. That's really good. Okay.
Is it out?
Not yet. You need to try and be patient with me. It's just a little bit.
Coming.
Just try and relax for me.
Okay.
Yeah, look.
Okay, there we go.
Oh my God. Look. No, we're not giving it to you anymore, Gay.
There's not any more, is there, Nadine? No? Okay.
Finally, the ball's out.
Thank you.
Well done. The ear canal is fine. The eardrum's intact. There's no problems there. So there's no signs of infection or anything like that.
I'm so relieved. I thought you probably had to go for anaesthetic or something.
I'm happy.
Nadim can now breathe a sigh of relief, but let's hope he doesn't get an earful from his mum when he gets home. Six-year-old Matthew Carley is back at the hospital, 8 weeks after having surgery on his palate to help improve his speech. Before the operation, air was escaping down his nose and at the back of his throat, making it difficult for him to pronounce and project his words. His mum and dad are desperate to know if it's worked.
We can hear a huge difference in Matthew's speech already, but until we hear what the doctor says, I am nervous and anxious.
Today, Matthew's surgeon, David Whitby, will assess his progress.
Just sit on. Oh, you're going to go upside down for? Oh, all right. Oh, OK. Oh, that's much smaller. That's much smaller.
It's a lot tinier, isn't it?
Good. OK. I mean, it was about a centimetre, and it's now about 3 millimetres.
Yeah.
So it's a lot smaller.
The hole in Matthew's hard palate is much smaller, and with the gap at the back of his throat also reduced, it's time to be assessed by speech therapist Sarah Wilkinson.
Tim is putting a hat on.
Tim is putting a hat on.
Super. Daddy, mend at the door.
Nanny, mending the door.
Well done. He say Daddy.
Daddy.
Perfect, well done. His resonance is sounding really good now, and there's no air that we can hear coming down his nose. His palate's working really nicely.
The speech is definitely better, and there's more potential for him to make sounds well.
It will change his life, so future's really looking, good for him.
I'm happy.
Bye-bye. Thank you. All right.
Matthew will need several months of speech therapy before he reaches his full potential, but he can now look forward to a life of not just being heard, but understood.